It's Tuesday, August 18th, and this is now on HNN.
To shut down the entire state again, businesses are going to die.
As the number of COVID-19 infections soar on Oahu, the state says new restrictions are near.
A huge rate increase has been approved for Young Brothers. We'll tell you what that means for the neighbor islands.
It's one of the most difficult decisions I've been a part of.
Is there a problem at the post office? I'm Christina Raffini with cuts to the agency as millions of Americans prepare to mail in their votes.
Are we taking actions to handicap the Postal Service?
These stories, plus Hawaiian Airlines is changing its mask policy again. Coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for watching This Is Now on this Tuesday. I'm Jonathan, your director and producer. Alongside Ashley, we begin with the latest numbers from the State Department of Health.
Hey everyone, health officials are reporting another patient with COVID-19 has died, bringing Hawaii's death toll to 41. DOH is also reporting 134 new COVID-19 cases today. We're still awaiting the breakdown by county. We'll have more coronavirus coverage coming up, but first we want to get to some other news that will impact the neighbor islands. Young Brothers, the state's only inter-island cargo shipping company, was approved to implement a 46% rate increase. The company's costs have been rising for years, and it sought a big rate hike even before the pandemic. The Public Utilities Commission approved the increase on several conditions, including Young Brothers accepting an audit and restoring normal sailings. Here's PUC Chairman Jay Griffin.
Actually, we did not take Young Brothers' proposal for how to allocate the rate increase. We actually did an across the board 46%, so people can expect to see that, and the magnitude of the increase in agricultural goods do get a discount, which would continue. So people, unfortunately, the news it'll be 46% from what you're used to paying currently. Commission faced a very, very stark, difficult choice here. And what we could be talking about this morning, the headline could be that PUC cuts lifeline to the neighbor islands. That is an outcome and a headline that we definitely want to avoid, that we need to avoid. Young Brothers didn't leave much room, and this is a question that we can't get a decision like this wrong and end up in that circumstance. So as we know that they're the only company here to provide this service, and we are challenged in this decision, but we've tried to put conditions on it to better protect customers going into the future and manage the cost.
So how exactly is all this going to impact consumers? KTA Superstores on the Big Island says it's happy to be getting more shipments, but worries the cost is going to be just too much for customers to bear.
We have a very difficult time because, we can't just pass on the cost to our consumer, especially at this very difficult time. It's going to be really hard on us. But, we're going to have to figure something out, because the way I look at it is better to have Young Brothers sailing than not having a budget at all.
According to the PUC, the Young Brothers increase will likely go into effect September 1st. Today we learned the Postmaster General is halting some controversial operational changes until after the November election. Congressman Ed Case is weighing in on this dramatic development. We've got Christina Raffini with more on that.
Facing an uproar, the recently appointed U.S. Postmaster General announced he will suspend controversial changes, including the removal of mailboxes and mail sorting machines that have slowed down mail delivery until after the election.
Here we saw a series of actions by the Trump administration, specifically the U.S. Postal Service, that taken together can only mean one thing: an effort to undermine the U.S. Postal Service's function in our society.
The change, of course, comes as Democratic lawmakers and postal workers across the nation held a day of action Tuesday.
There is no justification for removing machinery that will help us, assist us in processing the ballots in the mail.
With more Americans expected to vote by mail this year because of the coronavirus, the postmaster had previously warned he couldn't guarantee mail-in ballots in all 50 states would be delivered in time to be counted by November.
President Trump has denied trying to slow down the mail, but he once again questioned the integrity of universal mail-in voting, which is where states automatically send a ballot to every registered voter.
You can't have millions and millions of ballots sent all over the place, sent to people that are dead, sent to dogs, cats, sent everywhere.
Louis DeJoy, a Republican donor with no previous postal management, will face questions from lawmakers on Capitol Hill, starting at the end of this week. Christina Ruffini, CBS News, the White House.
Police are investigating a deadly stabbing in Makiki. EMS says crews responded to Pi'ikoi Street around 9:50 last night and found a man in his 40s who had been stabbed in his upper torso. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition. HPD tells us he later died. Investigators tell us a female suspect has been taken into custody. We'll keep you posted as more information comes in. Meanwhile, Big Island police are investigating the discovery of a man's body in a Mountain View subdivision. Lacey Denise has the details.
Hawaii Island police have opened an investigation after a man's body with suspicious injuries was found on the side of the road. Police believe his remains were dropped off sometime between Sunday night and Monday afternoon in the Eden Rock subdivision. Detectives say the victim appears to be in his 40s, although his identity has not yet been released.
There are some suspicious injuries to the body. We've got detectives in the area, canvassing the area, to see if anybody has any video surveillance or any witnesses who may have seen something.
Detectives say they are canvassing the area to see if anybody has video surveillance. So far, no arrests have been made, and authorities are looking into the exact cause of the victim's death. If you have any tips, call Hawaii Island Police. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
Honolulu police have arrested a man suspected of last Wednesday's deadly game room shooting in Ala Moana. Police say Aaron Tuitelapanga just appeared in court a short time ago. You're looking at new video of that appearance. He is accused of gunning down a 30-year-old man at an illegal game room at Kalau Okalani Way near Don Quixote. Tuitelapanga's bail has been confirmed at $1 million, and he's being held at HPD.
Let's get back to the very latest coronavirus news now. Everyone is wondering who exactly will be impacted by those new restrictions expected to be announced by Governor Ige very soon. We've got Chelsea Davis, who looks at the business angle.
It's unclear what the governor will decide. Still, small business owners are fearful, especially on Maui, where a recent study says the economy has suffered the most.
Oscar Gonzalez opened Refined Culture in Lahaina in November. The 25-year-old barbershop owner saw a bright future.
Saw a nice steady, increase in business every month, and when COVID hit, all that hard work gone.
He went from 13 clients a day to 0 after the first shutdown. Today, he's managed to rebuild, doing whatever it takes.
I even talk and joke around with my clients, fishermen clients, that I'll be willing to trade, I'll cut their families here for fish. Why not,
According to Hero, it's going to take until about 2029 to get back to pre-COVID days.
A recent report suggested nearly 900 Oahu businesses have either temporarily or permanently closed since the first shutdown. Hawaii's Chamber of Commerce says most others won't survive a second one.
So if there is another shutdown, we hope and we urge the government to provide some kind of stabilization plan, some kind of temporary relief.
To shut down the entire state again, businesses are going to die, especially if we're not the hot spot or we're not the ones that are causing the pandemic.
We really need benchmarks moving forward so that businesses aren't playing a guessing game about whether we're going to open or not open.
As for Gonzalez, he's hoping the rollback will be restricted to Oahu, or at the very least, it's confined to businesses who don't comply with the regulations.
We take pride in sanitation as an industry, so I hope we can do a good job in, convincing and helping the community see and our government see what we do to put into keeping our community safe.
The Chamber of Commerce says it has not heard from state leaders about the request for help. They're urging the government to announce a plan or set benchmarks so they can better predict if a shutdown is coming. Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz wants to know what the state health department is doing with $50 million in federal funding meant for testing and contact tracing. Arlene Kawano has more.
Contact tracing efforts are far behind in Hawaii as the virus rapidly spreads in the community, especially on Oahu.
This is not a question of resources. This is a question of emphasis. It's clear to me that the Department of Health doesn't really have their heart in contact tracing, and that has to change.
Senator Brian Schatz says the state has been given resources, $50 million in CARES Act funds, and offers from the city and county of Honolulu for more. So there's no reason why the state should be seeing such a surge in cases now.
My staff works very, very hard on understanding the CARES Act and understanding where every penny is spent. And we still haven't been able to figure out where that $50 million for testing and contact tracing has even been deployed, let alone spent.
After the state Senate and Hawaii News Now exposed the overwhelmed office, state epidemiologist Dr. Sarah Park was removed from managing the contact tracing program. While DOH claimed it had more than 100 contact tracers, a shortage of investigators created a backlog as hundreds of potential tracers trained through the UH program waited to be hired.
I have received emails over the past week from some of the participants in that program, explaining that they want to be called but haven't been called yet to start contact tracing work.
Health experts told state lawmakers that should have been done as soon as training was complete and could have prevented the surge.
If you think of it like a fire, once the fire is raging and the whole forest is burning, it's really hard to do anything except like go in helicopters and shoot water down on the whole forest. But when there's small little smoldering embers like in different places of the forest, that's when you can get around them.
Senator Schatz says the DOH can also accept the city and county's offer for additional CARES Act funds, something DOH resisted, citing a lack of knowledge of the program rules. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Hawaiian Airlines is tightening its face mask rules. Passengers ages 2 and older must now wear a mask at the airport and during the flight. Masks made with mesh or sheer material and those with valves are now prohibited. And passengers who cannot wear a mask for medical reasons must undergo a health screening before boarding.
We've learned that up to 300 Pizza Huts will close. Howard Dykes has more on that.
Bankruptcy is driving it, but it's not Pizza Hut parent Yum Brands that's bankrupt. It's the largest owner of Pizza Hut franchises. NPC went Chapter 11 last month and plans to close a quarter of its 1,227 restaurants. It also owns 6,500 Wendy's. Fracking company Chaparral Energy files Chapter 11, second bankruptcy in 4 years, amid low oil prices. It continues to fracture shale for crude while restructuring debt. Boeing will offer employees a second round of buyouts. The aircraft maker, in good times the largest single U.S. exporter, has been losing employees by the thousands. The UN's International Civil Aviation Organization meets today and will consider an airline industry ask to replace quarantines with COVID testing worldwide. Citigroup sues for $175 million it sent to a hedge fund. Details are complicated, but the bottom line is the bank transferred $175 million by mistake.
President Trump is in a war of words with New Zealand's Prime Minister over their country's response to the coronavirus. Ian Lee reports.
New Zealand's Prime Minister hit back at President Trump Tuesday, calling him patently wrong.
Obviously, I don't think there's any comparison between New Zealand's current cluster and the tens of thousands of cases that are being seen daily in the United States.
Jacinda Ardern was responding to these comments made by the president earlier in the day about her country's rise in coronavirus cases.
It was like front page, they beat it because they wanted to show me something. The problem is big surge in New Zealand, so it's terrible.
That big surge is dozens of new infections since last week, taking the country to a total of nearly 1,300 cases and only 22 deaths since the pandemic began. That compared to the United States, which currently has 5.2 million cases, more than the population of New Zealand.
We are still one of the best performing countries in the world when it comes to COVID. Our work is focused on keeping it that way.
New Zealand had eliminated the virus after a strict lockdown. But with this recent cluster, the country once again is conducting mass testing and enforcing a new lockdown in its largest city. Schools and other public places are closed in hopes to once again defeat the disease. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
And new at noon, sources say the suspect accused of stealing a police cruiser early this morning and leading officers on a chase has tested positive for COVID-19. Sources tell us HPD initially used a rapid result test on the man, so they are awaiting confirmation from a PCR nasal swab test. We're told HPD is evaluating which officers will need to isolate and quarantine themselves. The incident happened around 2 a.m. this morning. Police say an officer responded to a crash in the westbound lanes of the H1 near the Lunalilo Road exit. When the officer approached the vehicle, several occupants ran from the scene, and officials say the officer attempted to apprehend the male driver, which ultimately led to an altercation between the two. The suspect was able to break free from the officer and got into the police cruiser and drove off. Police eventually caught up with the suspect near Waikele, and the officer and suspect were taken to the hospital for their injuries.
We got some more breaking news coming into the digital center we need to tell you about. As Ashley told you at the top of the show today, we learned of 134 new cases and unfortunately one new death. We also just got word from the governor's office that there will be a press conference coming up today at 2:30. Speakers include Mayor Caldwell and Bruce Anderson. We can only assume that this will announce those new restrictions for Oahu that so many people have been waiting for. We'll just have to see how that develops. But again, that's coming up at 2:30 on H&N's digital platforms along with all our TV stations. Let's now turn it over to weather and Guy Hoggy.
How's it on this Tuesday? The weather's looking very, very nice. In fact, what we've seen for the last couple of days will continue for the next couple of days as well. And that means a few windward and Mocha showers, mainly in the morning and overnight hours. Leeward sides won't see much rain at all. Occasional splashes are possible for some leeward areas because of the breezy winds. You can see especially windy in Maui County, and they got Kona winds over in Kona, so it's going to be hot and sticky down over there. And because of those light winds, Kona likely get some afternoon clouds and afternoon showers. Lots of leeward sunshine across state. Temperatures approaching 90 degrees. The National Weather Service is saying Honolulu could hit 92 today. Luckily, those trade winds will help to keep us cool. Surf going to help to keep us cool as well. We've got some small waves for south and east shores. Nothing too big, but nice fun-sized waves. And keep in mind, though, extremely high tide this afternoon that could lead to coastal flooding for some neighborhoods along the front side, along the coast there. And the UV index is at 12. So no significant changes through tomorrow, but starting tomorrow night, lingering through Saturday, look for a few more showers, mainly for those windward and Mocha areas. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Thanks, Guy. Let's toss it over to Billy now, who has more on those areas that are likely to see some flooding today.
Thank you very much. We're down here in Maupuna. This is the area of Ahua Street and Kilihau Street, and this area always floods. It's been that way for literally a couple of decades now. They've tried at times throughout the years to mitigate it and hopefully keep it from flooding, but you've got the heavy rains when it happens, and then the floodwaters from the ocean that come up because of the high tides, and so it creates a bunch of water in these areas here, sometimes in the past up to waist deep. City councilman back in 2018 said that one of the problems is they need to get people from the state who own some of the property around here and the business owners to step into the conversation to talk story about it. But there is the subject of the king tides. It is Mother Nature. As a matter of fact, the king tides for today, plus 2.5 feet. That's going to be about 4 o'clock this afternoon here in the town spots. Over on the east side, that's going to be about an hour earlier. Same with the North Shore. And at about 4:20, 20 minutes after the town spots, the west side will see these king tides too. And it's not only here, it's places like Waikiki, and also there is the erosion of the coastlines in various parts of the island like the North Shore. King tides are happening today. As you can see, this is mud that's just been sitting here, and that is a sour smell. And down here in the waters, if you can see them, there are fish from the ocean, but this will soon evaporate, and then the fish will be left to die until the next high tide, which is coming up this afternoon. From Maupuna, I'm Billy V for This Is Now.
Thank you, Billy. Let's see what the internet's talking about. And if you are a seltzer drinker, specifically Budweiser, Bud Light hard seltzer, the company might have a job for you. We're talking about a CMO. Have you heard of this?
Nope.
A CMO is Chief Meme Officer. Again, this is for Bud Light Seltzer. The Bud Light's vice president and marketing made the announcement on Instagram. The low-calorie beverage launched back in January, along with so many others we've seen. They're looking for someone to create sort of those viral memes for their company. They're willing to pay $5,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just entails creating those memes. You have to come up with something clever. You can apply online. Just you have to download this meme creator and send in your application and see what you got. I'm terrible at making memes.
Oh,
I would
yeah,
be so
I would
bad
be
at this. I'm
awful
not
at
clever like that.
CMO, I like that.
Yes.
This is what I found. If you've ever eaten an entire box of Thin Mints for dessert, no judgment, but the Girl Scouts may have just what you need for breakfast or brunch now too. So the group announced a new cookie flavor called Toastier. It's a French toast inspired cookie dipped in icing, and Toastier won't be available until cookie season officially starts in January, so you'll just have to wait. But the Girl Scouts will continue to sell their cookies online amid the pandemic.
Toastier! That could be the Bud Light Seltzer meme.
True.
Toastier.
Yeah.
I love Girl Scout cookies. I just was at City Mill, and they were helping the Girl Scouts out this year, and loaded up on 4 boxes of my very own last week. And they were delicious.
Those girls know I'm a sucker. No matter how many boxes I buy, I can't say no to them, and they know that.
They're getting expensive, but worth it. But worth it.
Right, and speaking of new products, Starbucks is adding 2 new tropical green drinks to the menu permanently after what it called a successful launch in Canada earlier this summer. Now, the Kiwi Starfruit Starbucks Refreshers beverages combines Starfruit flavored juice with real pieces of kiwi handshaken with ice. And there's also a Star drink that's basically the same beverage but with coconut milk.
That looks so refreshing. And you know I don't drink coffee, so I always go for the teas and the fruit teas there at Starbucks. And we've been together. You know how fast I can drink one. Like, we didn't even get through the parking lot, and mine was gone. And it was a large one.
A lot of sugar.
Yeah, I need my sugar. And I also need some good news. Let's get to some.
Yeah.
All right, there's a new Google Doodle to talk about. I love when we get these and they have a local tie. So there's a local girl, there she is. She's up for a $30,000 scholarship. That's McKenna Hughes there. Woo-hoo! For her Google Doodle. She's the winner from the state. It's part of a national competition, so she's up for that big prize now. Her artwork is made of trash she collected from her favorite beaches. Isn't that cute?
That's adorable.
Spreading kindness right there. That is really adorable.
How old is she?
She is... Does not say in my script,
wow.
but she is adorable, right?
She draws way better than I did at her height.
Yeah, let's just show them right here, Ash. So we don't really have an on-the-air sign here at the Digital Center. So here's what I do every day. I draw my Garfield on-the-air sign. That's what we got. That's our budget right now, so please keep watching and maybe we'll get to upgrade it. But that's my drawing skills.
And
Pretty good.
Jonathan also does a really good Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Watch out, watch out. You guys, I think that's going to have to do it for us today on This Is Now. We have that press conference coming up at 2:30. That's with the governor, Bruce Anderson, and Mayor Caldwell, where we're expecting those new restrictions. Ashley's going to anchor that for us on our H&N digital platforms and all our TV stations. So look for that push alert that's coming up at 2:30. And if you miss it, I'll recap it on the newsletter I write every day. It's our e-newsletter. You can sign up for it on our website. You guys, thanks so much for watching. Obviously, we have a lot of news to get to today, so we'll see you again on H&N at 5 as well.
Aloha.